It started over a receipt. One thin slip of paper, poking from the trash like it had something to confess. $683. 45. Home decor boutique I'd never heard of. I waited until we were both in the kitchen. Bright, modern, polished. The same space where we'd once danced barefoot while dinner simmered behind us. I held the receipt like it was radioactive. Nicole, I said as calm as I could. What is this? She didn't even look up from the sink. What does it look like? I bought a few things. I stared at her back. With my card, Nicole turned slowly, wiping her hands on a towel, then leaned against the counter. Her face was unreadable, like she'd practiced that blank look in the mirror. Andrew, seriously? You're tracking receipts now? I'm tracking my money. There's a difference. She scoffed, arms crossing. God, you sound like my father. I felt the heat rise up my neck. That's not an answer. Her tone sharpened like a knife. You're unbelievable. I buy a few pillows and suddenly I'm on trial? It wasn't pillows, Nicole. It was 3 sets of French linens, a ceramic fruit bowl from Milan, and whatever the hell a sculptural incense arm is. Maybe I want nice things, she snapped. Maybe I'm tired of living like we're one paycheck away from disaster. I took a step closer. You know exactly what I make. We've never been close to disaster. Nicole's jaw tightened. Right. Because you get to decide what counts as necessary spending. I get to decide what comes out of my account, I shot back. You didn't even tell me. And then, there it was. Her eyes flared with something colder than defiance. You don't like that I have a life, she said. Friends, independence. You resent it. You want control, and when you don't have it, you call it financial concern. That landed like a slap. You think I care who you see? I asked, voice low. You think this is about your yoga friends, or book clubs, or whoever? This is about trust, Nicole. She tilted her head, mock thoughtful. No, it's about jealousy. And maybe a bruised little ego. I laughed once, sharp and bitter. If you're trying to provoke me, congratulations. No, Andrew. I'm trying to survive in a house with a man who resents me for not being his obedient little wife. The air between us snapped taut. My pulse thundered. For a second, I didn't recognize the woman standing across from me. I don't know when that change happened. Slow erosion, maybe. Or maybe she'd always been this way, and I just hadn't looked close enough. I go to work every day to provide this life, I said. The least I expect is honesty. And respect. She leaned in slightly, her voice almost a whisper. Then maybe find someone easier to manage. That's when I walked out. No yelling. No slammed doors. Just me, one foot in front of the other, leaving behind the scent of lemons and rage. The door clicked behind me, and the silence in its wake said everything she hadn't. I drove for an hour with nowhere in mind. Passed by the precinct without stopping, circled neighborhoods I didn't recognize. I wasn't ready to go home, and maybe that was the problem. You give someone love, safety, everything you've got, and they call it control. I'm not perfect, but I'm not stupid. Something was shifting, and I'd be damned if I let it destroy me without a fight. The morning light spilled across the dining table like nothing had happened, as if the walls hadn't absorbed every bitter word from last night. Nicole sat across from me, her hair still damp from the shower, robe loose at the collar. She tapped her spoon softly against her coffee mug. Her face looked fresh, calm, rehearsed. But something in her posture felt like a dare. I placed 2 plates down. Eggs, toast, the usual rhythm. No words yet. Then I broke the silence with the kind of clarity that left no room for misunderstanding. Going forward, I said, keeping my voice level, you'll only use money from the joint account after we both agree. No exceptions. She didn't flinch, just blinked slowly. Then, with a soft laugh, she shook her head. You're serious. I am. Nicole picked up her fork, let it hover for a second, then set it down with a little more force than necessary. So now I need permission to buy soap? This isn't about soap. Her eyes flicked to mine, cool, unblinking. You're making rules now? I'm setting a boundary, I said. One I should have drawn a long time ago. She leaned back slightly, arms crossing over her chest like a reflex. This is because I spent money on things you didn't pick out. No, I replied. It's because you did it without talking to me. Again. The silence thickened. Then Nicole leaned forward just a bit, her tone quieter, but sharper. You act like I emptied our savings. I bought a few things. That's not betrayal, Andrew. Then what is it? I asked. Because when you swipe my card without saying a word, it sure doesn't feel like partnership. She looked away, jaw working. I waited for her to lash out again, like last night. But this time, she didn't. Instead, she picked up her fork again, stabbed at the eggs, and took one slow bite. Her silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. That morning, the house moved slower than usual. Nicole cleaned the kitchen with more vigor than necessary. Drawers slamming, cabinet doors clipped shut. Her phone buzzed a few times. She didn't answer. I tied my boots by the door, still watching her from the corner of my eye. Before stepping out, I paused. Don't forget what I said, I told her. We do this together. Or not at all. She didn't respond. But as I closed the door behind me, I heard her toss her spoon into the sink. The clang echoed down the hallway like a shot across the bow. Whatever she was feeling, she'd buried it just deep enough to stay dangerous. And for the first time, I started to wonder what else she was hiding behind that silence. Nicole had this habit, always had, of humming softly when she cleaned. Nothing loud, just little tuneless melodies as she wiped counters or folded laundry. It used to make the house feel alive. That week, the humming stopped. So did the kisses on the cheek in passing, the absent-minded brushes of fingers when reaching for the same coffee mug. It was like someone had taken our marriage and dialed it down to mute. She wasn't angry anymore. That would have been easier to handle. Nicole was careful, too careful. Every movement felt measured. Her phone never left her side. And whenever I walked into a room, she'd flinch, just slightly, like I'd interrupted something she hadn't meant me to see. Tuesday night, I got home early. The hallway was dark. Kitchen lights off. No scent of dinner. Just quiet. She was in the living room, curled up on the edge of the couch like she'd been caught mid-thought. Laptop open. Phone face down. She snapped the laptop shut a second too quickly when she saw me. You're home early, she said, forcing a smile. I shrugged, hung my jacket. Case wrapped up quicker than expected. Nicole nodded like that explained everything. But her smile never reached her eyes. I walked over, sat on the opposite end of the couch, and just watched her. You all right? Of course, she said too fast. I waited. She reached for her wine glass, fingers brushing the rim, not lifting it. Just. Work's been stressful. One of the girls is out on leave, and I'm picking up the slack. I nodded slowly. That why you've been so jumpy? Her head turned sharply, then softened just as fast. Jumpy? Yeah, I said. Like the way you closed your laptop just now. The way you froze when I walked in yesterday. The way you keep leaving the room when I come home. Nicole chuckled lightly, brushing her hair behind her ear in that deliberate way she always used when dodging a real answer. Wow, sounds like someone's been keeping notes. I'm a cop, remember? I said, half smiling. We notice things. She leaned back, looking up at the ceiling, arms crossed tightly across her chest. I already told you, she said. Work stress. You're reading too much into everything. Maybe, I replied. But I didn't believe it. She wouldn't look at me. Not directly. Her eyes kept dancing around the room, anywhere but my face. The Nicole I knew could lie with words, sure. But her eyes always gave her away. This was something else. She was trying to keep something from me. I felt it in my bones. Over the next few days, that feeling only grew. I'd come home to find her pacing on the phone, only for her to hang up the moment she heard my keys at the door. Just my sister, she'd say. One night, I walked in while she was in the kitchen, phone in hand, laughing. Her laugh stopped cold the moment she noticed me, and the screen disappeared into her pocket like a magician's trick. You scared me, she said too sweetly. You're home quiet tonight. I didn't push. Not yet. Instead, I started watching. The texts came late. The alerts on her screen flipped away before I could catch names. I wasn't trying to spy, not really. But my instincts were screaming. Years on the force teach you the difference between someone who's tired and someone who's hiding. Friday night, I sat down in the living room with a book I had no intention of reading. Nicole sat across from me, scrolling. But every few minutes, her eyes darted toward me. I flipped a page I hadn't actually read. You know, I said finally, you've been different lately. She didn't look up. We've both been different. That's not what I mean. She sighed and set her phone down, folding her arms again. Andrew, if this is about the bank account thing again, it's not, I said. It's about you. Your energy. The way you won't even sit in the same room with me for more than 10 minutes. She gave a short, practiced laugh. I've been here all night. Physically, yeah. But you've been somewhere else since Monday. Nicole leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees. Look, if I'm distant, I'm sorry. I've had a rough week. That's it. I nodded, holding her gaze. You sure? Her eyes broke away. I'm sure. And just like that, the conversation ended. She stood, gathered her phone and charger, and walked off to the bedroom without a word. I sat there a while longer, staring at the doorway long after she disappeared. Whatever was going on, it wasn't just stress. Something had cracked, and I wasn't going to pretend I didn't hear it. It was just after 9 on a Thursday night when I sat down at the desk in my home office. The kind of quiet surrounded me that used to feel like peace. Now it just felt suspicious. Nicole was upstairs, claiming a headache. I'd heard her talking to someone earlier, muffled, hushed, on the patio. She said it was her coworker. I didn't press, but I remembered the sound of her voice. It wasn't the tone you use for scheduling deadlines. It was soft, nervous, intimate. That's what finally pushed me to open the joint bank account. I hadn't looked in months. Truth was, I never needed to. I've always been the one to save, to plan. Nicole handled the day-to-day stuff, groceries, little indulgences here and there. I trusted her. But as the screen loaded and the list of transactions unfolded, I felt a cold heaviness settle in my gut. There they were, rows of charges I couldn't explain. Bay Cove Hotel, $229. 00 Mira Bistro, $147. 50 Coffee & Co., $43. 10 Lux Massage Studio, $95. 00 The dates weren't spaced out. They clustered, back to back over a 2-week span. I clicked deeper. Some receipts were attached. One of them showed a signature scrawled at the bottom. Not Nicole's, and certainly not mine. The name printed on the digital copy of the Mira Bistro receipt made something inside me go cold. Derek Ward. I didn't recognize it, but it wasn't hard to guess. I scrolled faster now, connecting dots, building a timeline. Restaurant on Wednesday. Hotel the next day. Coffee the following morning. It wasn't a one-time thing. It was a pattern, and it didn't involve me. I stared at the screen, trying to stay calm, trying to breathe through the buzzing in my ears. You'd think years on the job would prepare you for moments like this. But nothing prepares you for finding the truth you were trying not to name. I picked up my phone, scrolled to the name that had been in my contacts since the academy. Jake Collins. He'd been my partner for 6 years. The kind of guy who didn't flinch in a crisis and knew how to keep his mouth shut when it counted. I texted, "You up?" The reply came in less than 30 seconds. Always. What's going on? I hesitated, then typed the only thing that mattered. I need help looking into something. Quietly. He replied immediately. Your place or mine? 10 minutes later, I opened the front door and let Jake in. He didn't waste time, just nodded once and followed me to the office. I pulled up the statements, opened the folder of screenshots I'd already started collecting. He leaned over my shoulder, scanning the files in silence. When I showed him Derek Ward's name, he straightened. Sounds familiar, he muttered. Trainer, right? Downtown gym. One of those boutique places. I looked up sharply. You sure? Jake nodded. Pretty sure. Runs some boot camp classes. Lot of high-end clients. Social media guy. I felt something in my chest shift. Oh wait, maybe. Or the first edge of clarity slicing through denial. Jake tapped the screen. You think she's seeing him? I don't know, I said. But I'm going to. He studied my face for a moment, then gave a slow, professional nod. You want me to dig? I looked down at the receipt again. Derek's name signed neatly under a bill that shouldn't exist. I nodded. Yeah, let's find out who this guy really is. And just like that, the switch flipped. This wasn't just about marriage anymore. Not about feelings. This was an investigation now, and I was going to follow it wherever it led. Jake had already reserved the back room before I arrived at the precinct. One of those quiet little corners meant for paperwork and overtime. But tonight, it was the war room. The blinds were drawn. Door locked. Just the faint hum of the overhead lights and the occasional chirp from the outdated desktop system as files loaded. He slid a manila folder across the desk without a word. Inside, hotel guest logs, time-stamped receipts, card activity. All retrieved on a favor, no questions asked. This is everything from the last 30 days, he said. Ward's name shows up 5 times. Same hotel. Always the same alias, Daniel White. But the credit card used? It's his real one. I flipped through each page slowly, eyes tracing lines like threads on a map. The pattern was deliberate, weekday evenings, always after 6 p.m. The check-ins were short, usually under 4 hours. No overnights. No baggage listed. But what stopped me cold wasn't the timestamps. It was the name beside his. On 2 entries, the second guest was listed as Nicole Ward. Not Nicole Carter. Not her maiden name. Not mine. Ward. Like they were married. I didn't say anything. Just stared at the line until the letters blurred. Jake leaned against the desk, arms crossed. Could be coincidence. No, I said flatly. Nicole never uses an alias. She wouldn't even change her Netflix name when we switched accounts. I kept reading. More receipts. A restaurant bill dated the same night as one of the hotel visits. 2 entrees, a bottle of wine, dessert. Tip, generous. Signature, D. Ward. The timestamp on the meal was 7:41 p.m. The hotel check-in, 8:16. Jake reached over and pointed to a page I'd missed. This one's interesting. Same date as the hotel and dinner, but here's the kicker. Her debit card was used at a gas station 10 minutes away around 8:30. She left the transaction open, pay at the pump. She was with him, I said quietly. Jake didn't argue. We cross-referenced phone pings next. Jake had pulled Nicole's approximate movements through cell tower triangulation using a tool that wasn't exactly in the standard manual. It confirmed what I already suspected. She'd been in the same zones at the same times. 3 out of 5. The other 2 didn't log enough data to verify, but the silence there only added to the noise in my head. She was with him. Again and again. I leaned back in the chair, letting the folder rest in my lap. My badge sat heavy against my chest, but not in the usual way. Not with pride. It felt like weight now. A reminder of the years I spent hunting truth for strangers, only to miss it in my own home. Jake watched me quietly. He wasn't the type to offer sympathy. That's why I called him. You want to keep going? He asked finally. I nodded. Next step's the security footage. Think we'll get it. With the right ask, I said, and the right tone. Jake gave a thin smile. The polite kind. Or the this is for a criminal investigation kind? I closed the folder slowly. The kind that doesn't make the manager ask too many questions. He nodded. We stood, the tension thick in the air but unspoken. There was a rhythm to this kind of work. A numbness that came from chasing the ugly side of truth. Usually it didn't follow me home. But tonight, it had already moved in. And I wasn't just chasing answers anymore. I was hunting betrayal. The diner was the kind of place that hadn't changed in 20 years. Laminate booths, plastic menus, a waitress named Marie who called everyone Han. Jake and I took the back booth. Away from the windows. Away from the noise. It was after 9, the place mostly empty except for a couple truckers nursing coffee at the counter. He spread the papers out between us, careful and deliberate. Timelines. Map printouts. Snapshots of receipts and digital trail breadcrumbs we'd spent 2 nights collecting. The kind of file you only put together when you stop hoping you're wrong. I sipped from a chipped coffee mug, eyes scanning the latest document. It was all there in plain text. 3 addresses, 5 restaurants, 2 boutique hotels, and one very consistent thread running through them all. Ward, Jake said, tapping the page. He shows up at all of them. I nodded slowly. Every time Nicole's card pings in one of those zones, he's nearby. Either his phone is hitting the same tower, or his card gets swiped within the hour. Jake took a fry from the shared plate between us, chewing with the kind of focus only someone trained to observe can carry. Guys careful though, he muttered. No social media tags. Nothing public. But his gym runs promo videos. Ward Training Systems, he's in half of them. Pretty boy. Leans into the personal coach persona. I didn't need to see a photo to know the type. Self-assured. Smirking. One of those guys who thrives on crossing boundaries just to prove they can. I stared down at a snapshot Jake had printed from the gym's website. Derek Ward, 34. Certified strength coach. Private sessions by appointment only. He was even listed under client discretion specialist. I felt the coffee burn a little as it went down. Guy doesn't even pretend, I muttered. Jake leaned forward, voice lower now. You thinking what I'm thinking? That this isn't random, I said. It's planned. Intentional. She's not just caught up in something. She chose him. Jake nodded. Every pattern fits. But there's still no picture. No smoking gun. Not yet, I said. We drew up the timeline. It wasn't hard. Every credit card entry and phone ping gave us structure. Nicole's Thursday yoga class. Same building Ward's gym was in. I never noticed. Why would I? The coffee shop 2 blocks over. where she liked to decompress after class. That was their meetup point. We confirmed it on the receipts. And the last hotel stay, the one labeled business conference. Nicole had left me a note that morning saying she might stay late if the sessions ran long. Turns out, there were no sessions. There wasn't even a conference. Jake handed me a napkin he'd scribbled a name on. Guy at the hotel front desk. Quiet type. I know him. I'll reach out tomorrow, see what kind of footage we can pull. I folded the napkin slowly, slid it into my jacket. For the first time in days, there was no doubt left. It wasn't paranoia, wasn't miscommunication. It was betrayal. And it had a face now. Derek Ward. Marie came by to refill the coffee. I waved her off, thanked her. My appetite was gone. Jake gathered the files, slid everything into his messenger bag, then stood. He didn't say anything until we stepped out into the cool night air. You sure you're ready to see the footage? I nodded. More than ready. He paused, then added, You want me to pull it myself? I looked down the street. Empty, quiet, cold. No, I said. I need to see it with my own eyes. Because no matter how much truth you dig up on paper, there's something final about watching it play out on a screen. And if I was going to face what came next, I needed to see them. Together. The hotel manager's office smelled like stale coffee and too many late nights. Jake had called ahead, said it was for a discreet inquiry. His tone did the heavy lifting. We'd both leaned on favors like this before, just never for something so personal. The manager, a thin man named Curtis with a tired mustache and tireder eyes, didn't ask questions. He just keyed in the date we gave him and turned the monitor toward us. Security cam faces the side entrance, he said. Guests like to skip the front when they don't want to be noticed. I didn't speak, just nodded once. The video loaded, and there they were. Nicole. Derek. She wore the blue coat I'd given her last Christmas. Her hand was tucked under his arm like they were heading to a gala, not a rented room on a Wednesday night. Derek had his head tilted toward her, talking close. His hand brushed the small of her back as they stepped through the glass doors. My pulse didn't spike. My hands didn't clench. I just watched. They paused at the elevator. She smiled. He leaned in and kissed her temple. The screen jumped slightly. The footage time-lapsed, but the message was clear. There was no question left to ask. Curtis cleared his throat. Need a copy? Jake looked at me. I nodded. The manager inserted a flash drive, copied the footage, and handed it over like it was a receipt. I slid it into my jacket pocket. No ceremony. No dramatics. Jake thanked Curtis, and we left without another word. Outside, the air hit cold against my face, but I didn't notice. We stood by the cruiser, engine ticking softly. Jake finally spoke. I'm sorry, man. I shook my head slowly. Don't be. You didn't lie to me. He didn't push further. That's why I trusted him. Back at home, the house was dark. Nicole's car was in the driveway, but no lights were on inside. I didn't go in. Not yet. I sat in my own car, flash drive in hand, watching the porch light flicker against the siding. My own reflection stared back at me in the glass. I thought I'd feel broken, or furious, or hollow, but all I felt was clear. There's a calm that comes after certainty. After weeks of suspicion and gaslighting and mental gymnastics. That calm is sharp, focused, and dangerous. Nicole didn't know I had the footage. Not yet. And I wasn't going to tell her. Not until I was ready. Not until I had every piece in place. Because this wasn't going to end in shouting or slam doors. This was going to end with truth. On my terms. The call came in just after 10 p.m. Anonymous tip. Noise disturbance on the 4th floor of a downtown walk-up. I didn't wait for backup. Didn't even log it officially. The address matched Derek Ward's listed residence. Jake made sure of that. I parked 2 blocks down, killed the engine, and walked the rest of the way. No siren. No rush. Just steady steps and silence building in my chest, like steam behind steel. The hallway outside his apartment smelled like cheap cologne and takeout. I stood in front of his door, knuckles poised, hand resting just a breath from my belt. 3 knocks. Firm. Measured. A shuffle. Then footsteps. The door cracked open, and there he was. Derek Ward. Up close, he looked exactly how I pictured him. Smug. Polished. Like a man who never doubted the mirror. Shirtless, sweat still clinging to his skin, like I'd interrupted him mid-rehearsal for a role he was too proud to admit he never earned. I held up my badge. Detective Carter. We got a noise complaint from this unit. Derek blinked once, then gave a lazy, crooked grin. Really? Didn't realize stretching could wake the neighbors. Mind if I step inside? He leaned against the frame, arms crossed. That depends. You got a warrant? Or is this one of those friendly neighborhood chats? I didn't flinch. Won't take long. He hesitated, then stepped aside. The place was exactly what I expected. Minimalist furniture, mirrors on every other wall, and a faint whiff of body spray that tried too hard. I walked in slowly, scanning. No sign of anyone else. Just him. And the echo of everything I'd seen on that footage. You live alone? I asked. He smirked. Most of the time. I turned to face him fully. You familiar with Nicole Carter? That smile didn't budge. Depends who's asking. Her husband or the cop. My jaw tightened, but I kept my tone steady. Let's not play games. He laughed, low and amused. Relax, man. Look, I'm not out here trying to wreck homes. Nicole's complicated. She told me you two were basically roommates. She told you a lot of things, I'm sure. He shrugged. Hey, I don't blame you. I saw the footage too. You're calm, controlled. Probably the type who thinks if you act like everything's fine, it will be. He took a step closer, eyes locked on mine. But let me guess. Last few weeks, she started pulling away? Seemed tired, distracted, kept her phone close? He chuckled. That's usually when they find someone who makes them feel alive again. I didn't move, didn't speak. Because the rage? That's what he wanted. Derek leaned in slightly. You know what she said the first night we met? I miss being seen. That's all it took, man. You lost her way before me. That did it. I stepped in fast, grabbed the collar of his shirt, and shoved him hard against the wall. Not enough to hurt. Just enough to make him remember my badge meant something. His smugness cracked for a second. Then it came back even stronger. You gonna arrest me, officer? He sneered. For what? Being better than you at keeping her attention. My grip tightened, but I let him go. Not because he didn't deserve it, but because I wanted him to know I was in control. I stepped back, adjusted my jacket. He straightened his shirt, still smiling like he'd won something. You should thank me, he said as he opened the door. At least now you know the truth. She was never yours. Not really. He held the door open. I walked out without another word. The door slammed behind me, loud and final. But it didn't shake me. Because I wasn't leaving defeated. I was leaving prepared. He thought that was the last move. But I'd only just started playing. 2 days passed. Quietly. No new arguments. No strange receipts. Nicole acted normal. Whatever version of normal she'd settled into. I played along. Until Saturday morning. I stepped out to grab groceries and stopped cold on the front walk. There it was. A deep scratch carved into the side of my cruiser. Deliberate, jagged, ugly. A long, messy arc from the tail light to the front wheel well. Another gift, signed in silence. I didn't touch it. Just circled the car slowly, noting every detail. Shards of black paint chipped near the handle, smudged fingerprints along the back window. I knew anger was what he wanted. He wasn't going to get it. I drove 2 blocks to the gas station I always used, the one on the corner of Mayfield and 3rd. It had a wide view of the street and an aging surveillance setup that still recorded everything in high def. The clerk, Richie, was a college kid who knew me by name. You got footage from last night? I asked, sliding my badge onto the counter. Always, he said, already unlocking the back door. Looking for someone? Just need eyes on my vehicle. Between 10 p.m. and midnight. We stepped into the security room. 2 dusty monitors blinked to life. It didn't take long. At 11:38 p.m., the feed showed a shadowy figure stepping out from a parked black sedan across the street. Hoodie pulled up, gloves on. He moved quickly, approached my car with clear intent. Reached into his pocket, pulled something shiny. Metal. Sharp. The scratching began. Slow. Methodical. Like it wasn't a warning, but a message. He turned, just briefly, and the light caught his face. Derek Ward. Clear as day. No mask. No rush. Just arrogance. He backed off, tossed something into the gutter, and strolled to his car like it was just another workout. I hit pause. Frame by frame, I zoomed in. The smug grin still clung to his face like it had in the hotel lobby footage. Like it had in his apartment when he said, "She was never yours." I pulled out my phone. Took photos of the screen. Timestamps. Car plate. Face. Richie watched me, arms crossed. Want a copy? Yeah, I said. Flash drive if you got one. He handed it over, no questions asked. That guy mess with you? He asked as I left. I looked back. He messed with the wrong thing. At home, I pulled into the driveway, popped the glove box, and slid the footage next to the earlier one, Nicole and Derek entering the hotel. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was documentation. Because people like Derek think they're untouchable. Think no one's watching. That the husband's too blind. Or too soft. But I'd worn this badge for over a decade. And I knew exactly what to do with a file like this. I didn't storm inside. Didn't accuse or demand. Nicole was in the kitchen, humming again, like she'd found her rhythm. I nodded to her, kissed her cheek. She looked surprised. Cautious. But said nothing. That was fine. Let her wonder why I was calm. Let Derek think he got away with it. The mistake they made was thinking this was still personal. It wasn't. Now it was professional. And tomorrow, the paperwork would start. It was just after noon when Derek walked into the precinct like he owned the place. He wore a fitted black tee and joggers like he was headed to a photo shoot instead of a meeting with internal affairs. The front desk officer pointed him toward the briefing room, where I said we'd clear a misunderstanding. He didn't suspect a thing. He didn't know I'd filed the incident as criminal mischief first thing this morning. Didn't know the footage was already logged, the plate match verified, the complaint signed, sealed, and assigned to me. He definitely didn't know Nicole was sitting in the hallway outside the conference room, waiting to speak with me about lunch plans. Funny how fate arranges these things. I stepped into the hallway, uniform crisp, badge gleaming, every movement deliberate. Jake saw me coming from across the bullpen and nodded once, quiet confirmation. Derek was leaning against the wall, texting. When he looked up and saw me, that smirk crawled across his face like a reflex. But this time, I didn't speak. I just stepped in close, pulled the cuffs from my belt, and locked them around his wrists. Click, click. The room went still. Derek blinked. What the hell is this? You're under arrest for vandalism and property damage, I said, loud enough for every desk jockey within earshot. You have the right to remain silent. Nicole's voice sliced through the air like a blade. Andrew. She stood just a few feet away, her purse slipping off her shoulder, eyes wide and blinking like she was trying to wake up from something. What are you doing to him? Derek turned toward her, wild-eyed and panicked. Nicole, say something. He can't do this. But she wasn't looking at him anymore. She was staring at me, and I didn't stop. You have the right to an attorney, I continued. If you cannot afford one, the court will appoint. Andrew, please, Nicole said again, her voice cracking now. What is this? I looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, I felt. Still. You knew what he did, I said evenly. And now you're watching the consequences. Her lips parted, but no words came. Just this trembling confusion in her eyes. Part guilt, part shock, part something else. Something unfamiliar. Fear. Derek pulled at the cuffs. This is insane. You're doing this because of her? Over a scratch on a car? I leaned in, just enough for him to hear. No, I'm doing this because you thought you were smarter than the badge. But I wear it for a reason. He scoffed. You think this makes you the bigger man? No, I said. It makes me the one who finishes what others start. Jake took Derek by the arm and led him down the hallway, past the cluster of silent officers who suddenly found reasons to look busy. Nicole didn't follow. She just stood there, staring at me like she'd never really seen me before. The man she thought she could lie to. The man she assumed would stay quiet. I walked past her without a word. No anger. No sarcasm. No explanation. Because the explanation had just walked past her in handcuffs. And I didn't need to say anything else. Back at my desk, I logged the arrest, tagged the evidence, filed the chain of custody. It felt clinical. Necessary. Not like revenge. Like closure. Outside my office window, I caught one last glimpse of Nicole still standing in the hallway, clutching her purse like it might anchor her. But it wouldn't. Not anymore. She watched me for a long moment. Then she turned and left. And I let her go. It was raining the day she came back. Not a heavy storm, just that soft, drizzling kind of rain that soaks everything in silence. I heard the knock before I saw her. A light tapping, hesitant, almost polite. I opened the door, and there she was. Nicole stood on the porch, hair clinging to her cheeks, mascara streaked, eyes red like she hadn't slept in days. For a second, we just stared at each other. I didn't say anything. She spoke first. Andrew. I don't know where to begin. Her voice cracked on my name, the way it used to when she was scared, but it didn't move me this time. I stepped aside, just slightly, not to invite her in, but to shelter her from the rain. She didn't step over the threshold. I made a mistake, she whispered. I tilted my head. Did you? Tears welled in her eyes. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. He didn't mean anything. God. I was confused. I felt invisible, and I thought he saw me. She choked on the last word like it hurt to admit. I waited. I've been going to therapy, she added, as if that might fix something. Trying to understand what I did. Why I did it. I want to make things right. She reached out then, slow, like touching me might take her back in time. But I didn't move. Instead, I handed her the envelope I'd kept by the door for 3 weeks. Inside, signed divorce papers. Clean. Simple. Irrevocable. Her eyes scanned the front, trembling hands clutching it like it might vanish if she blinked. I don't want this, she whispered. I do. She looked up, searching my face for something soft. Some crack. But I wasn't the man who begged anymore. You can spend your own money now, I said quietly. Then I closed the door. The rain kept falling. I stood in the hallway for a long moment, listening to nothing but the ticking of the kitchen clock. No more secrets. No more lies. Just quiet. I walked back into the house. The furniture where I left it. The air clean. My phone didn't buzz. No eyes darting away. No shadows in the hallway. Just peace. And for the first time in months, I let out a long, quiet breath. It was over. And I was finally free. That was the end of my story. I still wonder, if Nicole truly believed I'd never find out, why did she come back after everything fell apart? Was it guilt, desperation, or something real? Did she do the right thing by facing me? Or was it just another manipulation? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if my story hit you somewhere deep, subscribe, like, and stick around. There's more truth where this came from.